CASAR Park is a social enterprise. Our enterprise is the operation of a motorsport complex together with some other complementary recreation and tourism facilities. And the social outcomes to do with our enterprise are around the provision of work experience, training and social engagement opportunities for young people here in Wyong Shire, primarily focusing on the work experience component. The image there is of a chocolate factory. People may wonder why there's a picture of a chocolate factory associated with a motorsport venue, and that is around our business model focuses on a point of difference. You need to have a reason that encourages people to do business with you rather than do business with your competitors. And so for us, it was around providing something that is non-motorsport. The other thing in terms of foundations of a good social enterprise is the skills of yourself and your team around you. So we've got people from the training side of things, we've got people from the job service providers, we've got people that are involved in corporate motorsport, we've got people that are involved in club level motorsport. And so we've got a small group, but a group that represents a number of our stakeholders. And the small group is probably a key message as well in terms of your organisation being able to move forward and be innovative. A large group, to some extent, is going to hinder that. So it's one thing to have an idea, and it's one thing to have a team, and it's one thing to have some great notions. You've got to turn that into a strategy. And the main thing from a business strategy point of view is this notion of a unique and sustainable competitive advantage. Know your niche. This is what our niche value is somewhere to bring their family, to make their participation in motorsport a family activity. So from a funding point of view, we've worked on sponsorship, understand what your brand is, what your message is, and then find people who think that's valuable, get on board with those guys. Crowdfunders, it's a similar notion. Crowdfunding is difficult in terms of how much do you give away. That's the challenge. And membership is a way to engage with people who, again, it's not about the value for money of the membership, it's about being associated with a unique group of people associated with your organisation. Investors. So this has been an interesting journey for us. So you've got investors that are essentially donors, and so they're, by not charging a high level of interest, they're basically giving you money. You've got supporters who are people that will accept a basic level of return on their investment, and then you've got venture capitalists that will take as much as they can out of the enterprise. And so that's the journey you're going to find, is that you'll be touching people who are in any of those spaces, and so you need to understand how much you have to give away in order to connect with those people. And so I've come up with this notion of a resourcing conundrum. In order to go through the hoops that are required for the grants process, you need to have strong resources in place. And so from our point of view, that leads to two things. Either one, you volunteer your own time, or someone in your organisation volunteers their time, and by doing that you get the grants and then you retain that community ownership. Or two, you find that commercial partner, a sponsor or a donor or a venture capitalist, whoever that might be, and you have them provide some financial resourcing that you can then pay someone to do the grant application. The flip side of that, like in any business type model, you're going to have to give up some kind of equity in your business idea, whatever that might be. To give it another example, if you're growing a business that's not based on grants and it's based on revenue, you still have to do the same thing. You still have to develop a marketing plan, you have to spend your advertising budget, you still have to spend money in order to grow the business. It's just that at least with marketing and advertising, you've got a greater sense of control over the outcome, as opposed to grants, which to some extent seem a bit random in the scheme of things. So the funding challenge around social enterprise, and we are trying to raise $18 million, and so we're not a small enterprise. And so dealing with the financiers, so we've dealt with the key ones, so Foresters, CIFA and SVA, and for all of them we've been too large. And so this is the thing that facing social enterprise funding, is that it's only in its early days. Most organisations are a maximum of $1 million loan, and so for us that was a challenge. And the business models and the corporate structures, so again the notion of an incorporated association or even a company limited by guarantee is not necessarily the way to go with these organisations. So you need to look at partnerships and joint ventures and cooperatives and other type models to go into that space. And so that's something that just through trial and error and through people having a go and pushing the boundaries, we might get to that point. And so the risk and return notion, this is a challenge again for social enterprise, is that our motorsport facility is a social enterprise versus someone as a private enterprise. The risks in both businesses are the same. But from our point of view, by holding ourselves out to be a social enterprise, we need to achieve that economic return that they'd be achieving, as well as honour the social outcomes that we're after. So it's quite a challenge, and it's something you need to be prepared to do when you're stepping into the social enterprise space, is realise that you need to provide that private sector return in order to meet your debts. but you also have to honour that social outcomes. And so that's, I guess, a further challenge of social enterprise, but that's what makes it rewarding. Learning curves, these are just some of the skill sets that you might find yourself calling on in order to develop a social enterprise. Like any entrepreneurial journey, you need to have a broad range of skills, and for the skills you don't have, you need to form a team around you that does have those skills. Depending on the dollars involved, again for us for $18 million, you can't have a crack at trying to develop a business that needs $18 million. You have to have a strong business plan, you have to have a strong business model, and you have to have the right people around you and the right skills to deliver it. Including points, be prepared for a challenge, be open to connections. Twice a week I would be in a forum like this where we're talking to people and getting different perspectives and different ideas. Listen and learn. Having passion for a project is a great way to start, but it's not everything. You need to have the skills and the knowledge of the team around you to make it grow. Another Brad Wilsonism, the 1, 2, 3 of opinion. So when you're working on a project and you're pushing it forward, if one person says, oh, that won't work, that can't happen, that's just their opinion, keep going. If 2 people say it, then that's a coincidence. That's interesting, 2 people have the same view. But if 3 people say it, then you need to take that on board as constructive feedback. That's when you get to those points where you're saying, okay, well, I'm not getting forward. I've had 3 views confirm this is not the way to go. What do I do? That's when you get creative about having a different solution. And accept appreciation as an end in itself. So again, for our project, we've been going for 5 years. We haven't even turned dirt yet. And so from that point of view, it's a challenge to maintain motivation to keep these things going. But every time we get an email or a Facebook post or some other comment by someone who recognises the huge journey that it's been and simply says thank you, that's a real great support. And so I think, again, for our projects, that entrepreneurial projects are a big job. They're a long-term job. And by having a sense that every forward step is a step that's towards a better outcome, I say for me, that's my 2 cents has been to be appreciative of those comments.